Freud.
What do you do, backflips? You jump up there in a silly suit? What do you do?
You go BAM! I want you to play that.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Fast Freddie here. Another edition of Fast Freddie Rocks Youngstown. We're coming to you live and direct from the Youngstown studios in beautiful downtown Youngstown, Ohio. And tonight it's going to be all about rock and roll. Well, it's usually always about rock and roll most of the time anyways. But tonight I got two great guests with me. I got Jim Gustafsson from the legendary Youngstown band Poobah, who's been rocking and going strong for all these years. And on this side of me is Mr. Jac Riblet, and Jac is a walking history book of Youngstown rock history. He's been there, he's seen it all, he's been to all the places, he knows all the people, he grew up with half the people, and an hour and a half or so today is not going to be enough to get all his stories in. And both of these guys will be back, because they have such great stories and so much knowledge. Before I get started, I do have to promote an event coming up Saturday night. It's called the Steel Valley Wolfstock. It's a night of peace, love, and pause. It's a night of music to benefit fur babies and animals. The Clarks are going to be there, and Leanne Binder and the Judgment. And that is going to be at Tiffany Manor at the Banquet Hall. And it's a cash bar. They're having a rock and roll memorabilia silent auction with just all kinds of unbelievable stuff. And you could get more information on that at steelvalleywolfstock.com or .org. Well, let me make sure I got that right. Steel Valley Wolfstock. Just look it up online and you'll find it. And what these people do, great bunch of people, Dr. Sue, they help pets through spay and neuter programs, community crisis programs, humane crisis outreach, pet food banks, education and support for military and police dogs. And they also focus on smaller scale rescues, and they do a lot of great work. So you might want to check that out tomorrow. It's Steel Valley Wolfstock, Peace, Love, and Pause, featuring the Clarks from Pittsburgh, and also Leanne Binder and Rama will be there. Now, let's get down to business here. Both of these guys I've been trying to get on the show for a long time, and our schedules have finally hooked up because Jac's got a big event coming up this weekend we're going to talk about, which is why Jimmy's in town. So, Jimmy, why don't we start first with a little bit of the history of Poobah? Tell us about the band. You guys have been around forever. How did this whole band come about? How are you still going? Let's just start from day one. How did it all come about?
Well, after making records when I was 15 years old with Days Ends, and after making an album with my next band, Big E Rat, and getting produced by Jimi Hendrix's bass player, Billy Cox, I really got bitten by the recording bug. So by the time I was 21, I already had 2 albums recorded, and I just loved doing it, and I would keep going back in the studio over and over again, as you can see with all these little children of studio. And I'm still recording again. I've been recording songs recently, but I ended up playing thousands and thousands of shows all over the country and Canada, and kept putting out all these albums. And next thing I know, people were telling me I was in these encyclopedias of collectible vinyl. So I hunted those down, and they're saying that if you had this album right here on the original vinyl,
Poobah let me in,
that it was now worth as much as $2,000 a copy.
Now, how did that come about?
Well, I wish I had the formula for that so I can start, hey.
Yeah, right.
Here's another one.
Just happened to find this one laying around.
Well, it's really amazing how there is a grassroots movement around the world of vinyl record collectors who have chosen this album to be like what they call a grail. And there's a lot of people that have paid it. I had a doctor from Canada tell me he paid $2,400 for 2 copies of this. And I'm just like,
So where's your royalties?
well, I'd like to think that too, but sorry about that.
But that's pretty cool that you put this thing out, and that to this day people are still like after it and everything. I think it's just a cool story that after all these years, this album is like sought after. Like you say, it's like a grail that's out there. I think it's pretty wild.
There's some other ones too, and there's some other records out there that just sell for incredible amounts of money. I saw one that was selling for $4,000 for one vinyl record. I was like, wow. How does that happen? I can't really say, but I guess you make a record, you put it out, and maybe some way it finds its way around the world. And all these people, I had a manager of a world famous band, Pentagram, who I'm now friends with, Bobby Liebling. Hi, Bob. And Sean, who was the road manager for that band, told me when I met him at a festival I was playing at, the Poobah was one of the most tape traded bands in the world. That somehow they couldn't find the record, but they found cassettes. So in like the early 90s and stuff, all of these tape traders started making tapes of this album. Somebody would have a copy and they'd send it copy to the next guy and the next guy and the next guy. And while I wasn't getting any royalties from that, when this product started coming out, these people would go out and buy it. So I had to wait a long time to get paid.
Poobah's done very well.
Well,
How about you let's talk about the top 25 albums in the world today. Number 1, as of yesterday, is still Dark Side of the Moon. Would you believe that? But number 2, and this is a worldwide thing here, is a band called Monster Magnet, who's taken an album, and from their album they put Mr. Destroyer on it, which he wrote so long ago. But it fit right in with the style of music they're doing.
Oh, thanks, Joe.
They're just, it's incredible that he's able to, over in Europe right now, this Monster Magnet group is just going wild. And everybody likes this Mr. Destroyer thing because, well, first of all, he's crazy. And that's what they like in Europe. And they're out of their minds.
You have to be in this business.
And this band found his song and went with it. And so how proud can you be of that? I am very proud.
And that shows you how great of a song that is, that it stood the test of time. That because I can remember when that first came out, and that used to be one of the songs that we always used to love to see. As a matter of fact, when you did that song, didn't you come out in like a silver suit or something? Was that on Mr. Destroyer when you would come out?
Well, usually it would be either silver, or I had seamstress Birdie made. She made dark blue ones with silver moon and stars and stuff on it. And, back during those times when people were doing a lot of space trucking, it really went good with the strobe lights and the drums on fire by Glenn.
Well, yeah.
Right.
And that was 2 years before Kiss came out.
Uh-huh.
But at least we never burned any place down.
That's always good. Now
Let's
talk a little bit about this album. Now, where did you record this? And take us through a little journey through this album.
Well, one of the people that's being honored tomorrow night at the Youngstown Rock History Dinner is Gary Ramey. And he was the engineer on this album.
And on how many albums
Bunch
did this
albums.
man do?
He was the engineer on this one too.
So many bands. If there was a piece of vinyl out
On Poobah Steamroller.
That's right.
And then he recorded several songs after that that haven't been pressed yet.
Mm-hmm. So Gary, for people that don't know, he's the owner of Peppermint Productions, and Peppermint Productions celebrated its 50th anniversary this week. They have been around for 50 years. He has won several Grammys for polka recordings, and like Jack said, back in the day, everybody and their brother recorded at Peppermint Productions. And what's real, it's still there on Indianola. It's right where old Wilson High School used to be. And I went to Wilson High School, and one of my favorite stories about Peppermint Productions is my buddy's brother was the janitor there. And And so he would just open a door and, people would be in there recording and would just come in and would be sitting, they had the windows upstairs and everything. And as long as we weren't doing anything, we would hang out there and we'd see all these bands come in there and it was really cool. And one of my first really rock and roll experiences was when Law had their album release party there. And I was probably 13 or 14 at the time. Wow. So you guys are a little older than me.
No,
just slightly, although you don't look it. But neither do you. But so they had this album release party there. And, I was such a big music fan at the time. And then, when the crowd started coming in and it was all these hippies and guys that looked like David Crosby and, people with bell bottoms and guys that looked like Eric Clapton, with the big fro and crazy bell bottoms and everything.
I miss those days.
You were probably there.
Well,
we were
doing it.
And it was all of a sudden, I was right in the middle of this whole thing. And I was just blown away. And I was like, oh,
that was a good
man.
band too. Steve Acker and them.
And then the band started playing and they recorded a live album of that night. And I'll tell you what, that was one of my first real rock and roll experiences that just
13.
Put me on the track,
Gary, I was talking to him the other day and he told me some of his most favorite moments there were when Left End would do sessions there, recording sessions. He goes, that was one of his favorite moments there. And then Gus here told me, he says, he wrote me a little message at the site and he goes, Poobah was born at Peppermint. How cool is that?
Yeah,
we do want to give that out to Gary. We're gonna
hey Gary Raymond
tribute tomorrow, and hope you're gonna make it.
Yeah, we're going to get Gary on the show here too. I see him every Saturday over at the radio station, and what a great guy. Another favorite song of mine on here is Bolene. Bolene is a rocking song, man. So Poobah was born at Peppermint Productions. Now, where are you originally from?
Boardman.
Okay, so how'd this whole band get together? How'd the whole Poobah thing come about?
Well, after I recorded in Memphis, Tennessee with Jimi Hendrix's bass player, and the band that I was in just started, people's egos just went through the roof, and it was no longer a business. It was silliness. So next thing I know, that band's gone, and I met the bass player, Phil Jones, who was, rest in peace, was just a fantastic musician and good vocal harmony singer. He was really terrific, and ended up making 3 albums with him and some other songs too. And then Glenn Wiseman was the original drummer, and he got mad at me because I wouldn't see things his way. It's the way it goes when you're young.
Yeah.
And you're old.
Right. And when you're in a band.
That's right.
Hey, look at Aerosmith, look at the Rolling Stones.
You got to honor any of them that can stay together, because it's hard. It is all these different personalities clashing,
One person told me one day, they go, boy, it must have been great to be a rock and roll star in them days, being on the Idora Ballroom and doing all this great stuff. And I go, yeah? I said, well, most of my friends are like rock musicians. I said, it was no fun. I go, they had their 10, 15, 20 minutes of fame where all the girls thought, boy, they are pretty. And boy, they wanted to meet that guy and everything. But they didn't realize that the band had to get there like maybe an hour and a half before, set up, make sure everything's working, then play and be handsome and all that kind of stuff. Then, after everybody goes home thinking, oh, wow, that was fun, this was great, they had to unpack and pack up and unload, and I was there helping them guys doing that in them days. And then, there's 4 or 5 in the band, they got $150. Wow.
That was a lot of money.
Yeah.
But the point being is, they thought they put the musician up on these pedestals, and they don't realize they thought they were just perfect. No, they had to work. This was a job.
When my grandparents saw me come home with $50, they thought I'd made a fortune.
Right. Well, that's the day when you could buy gas for
17 cents.
Right. And plus, though, the thing about it too was back in those days, a musician could make a living playing in a band in Youngstown, Ohio, because everybody was out
Me?
7
5
days a
nights,
week,
7
you know?
nights,
Yeah.
5 nights,
There's so many
whatever
clubs.
you could stand.
Yeah, yeah, whatever you could take. Maybe play a couple gigs in a day, a teen dance in the afternoon, a club later in the night.
How about you go to the Green? Remember where the Green was?
Oh,
on
yeah.
Lincoln?
Right where
I'll tell you,
Kilcully
there was
is
some
now.
fun stuff that went on there,
Yeah, that
That
was
was kind of a down stage where it went down into the stage. Remember how the stage was up a little bit and the thing went up like this, like they took out seats from like a theater.
Yeah. Now the Green was kind of the predecessor of the Tomorrow Club. I think you could say.
With Jack
the
Kerchak.
apartment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you had the apartment and the Freak Out and a host of other places. But then, I mean, if you even want to go back another step, probably you say the Elms Ballroom started it, and then you went to the Green,
Well,
and then to the Tomorrow Club, and
it's
with
funny
the
you
clubs
say
in
that,
between that.
because I've been talking to Ting about stuff like that, and he goes, Jack, the reason why I like your site so much is because you cover from like 1955 on. Most of the guys that are doing historical things want to go and stay from like 1964, 63 when the Beatles come on, that kind of thing. He goes, but you go back, and I go, yeah, that's because I remember going and seeing the Citations and the High Guys and the Executioners at the Cove. That's Kove, and people go, the Cove. And I go, where's that at? And I go, in Idora Park. And they go, no, that's Idora Ballroom. And I go, nope, that's the Cove. And there was no alcohol allowed, but you go in and see bands like the Citations, and we're talking
Human beings.
the Poppy.
Yeah.
I mean, my gosh, and it would go. And here's one of my favorite stories of all times:
The Shillings with Gary DePisa.
New Hudson Exit. All my buddies are pretty much in the band.
Yeah, explain for people that don't know. Explain
It
some
was
of the
at
people
the
that were in the band.
gazebo room, which turned into the Orange Room in the Wedgwood Plaza. So we go one night, and of course, there's probably about 8 of us guys. We all hung together and stuff. And we're going to go see our buddies, New Hudson Exit, play.
And who's in the band?
Well, Phil Kagi was actually in the band, Tom Jack, Bob Barbone, and my memory. And so now we go down, and this is after Sgt. Pepper came out. They dressed all in Sgt. Pepper's uniforms and did the whole show. And I never seen anything like that in my life.
And the Beatles weren't coming around, so that was the best next
think
thing.
about how, you talked about how you dress up like that. That's great because you promote your show like that. That's good stuff. Well, that was really going over the top.
Yeah. Well, that had to be pretty wild. That had to be pretty wild.
Well, you've seen your stuff in your day. You know what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
You've been there.
Oh, yeah. Now, so how did you get into music? What made you pick up the guitar, and how did you get started?
Well, I think that a pivotal moment in my life for deciding to be a musician was when my beautiful sister and her sexy, gorgeous friends were all sitting there watching them on Beatles on Ed Sullivan going, oh, I love you. And I thought, man, that's a job to get.
Hey, a lot of people are like that, Nowadays, there's some people out there who go, oh, these pigs, they're sexist. They want to get in there to get women. No, that's what it's all about. That's a big part of it. Let me tell you.
Hey, that was a
She loves you.
13-year-old kid,
Right. Exactly. You want to get girls, and then you find out that beer goes along with it. Now you got beer and girls and music, and you're getting paid on top of it.
After I started playing guitar all the time,
Uh-huh.
I became so obsessed with it that sometimes my family thought it was unhealthy. They thought, you've got to go be a lawyer or a...
Well, no, you made it a job. We've discussed this many times. He made it a trade.
Yeah.
More or less, he's still doing it and making a living at it. He's not a weekend guy. But and it's paying off now.
Yeah. But like you say, too, I know a lot of people that were like that, or I've heard stories of people that like that. Once you started learning those songs, you become obsessed with it, right? You were just sitting in there, and now I learned this song. Now I learned that. Oh, here's this riff. Oh, here's that note. Here's how you play that. And then it just keeps snowballing and snowballing. So you're probably one of them guys that all of a sudden, once you picked up that guitar, your friends didn't see you because you were in there practicing and practicing.
The coach calling my grandma, why hasn't Jimmy been coming to baseball practice?
Playing his guitar.
He's down in the basement.
He's riding Mr. Destroyer.
Yeah, right. He's getting ready to put
We
together
don't
that
play
album
ball.
that's selling for $4,000 on Goldmine. That's what he's doing right now.
I saw that Days Ends record from when I was 15. It's selling for over $100 a copy for that 145 RPM now.
Wow.
I don't know how. I wish I had a formula to make that happen.
I know.
No,
Just
you
not
are
that
the
simple.
formula. That's why it happened.
Now,
it's just like Phil Keaggy. When you talk about him, he was the formula. It's not. When you talk about a humble
That's
guy,
how I met Jack. Was going to see Phil Keaggy back in the high school.
Back when
Every time I went to see him, he was there.
Well,
Every single
he
time.
didn't mean to. It was just. It was sort of like when you say to the kids today, "Where did you go?" And they all go, "Well, we went to this one spot." And then 30 years from now, they're asked by their kids, "Where do you go? Where did you go there?" And they go, "That's boring." So now the kids today, if you mention the Beatles, they go, "Oh." And you realize that that's why I'm doing what I do.
Only
Right.
the greatest
It's for the
songwriters
children,
of all time.
Children.
well, there are still a lot of people out there. I think that the Beatles are still going strong. They keep getting people in. It's hard to believe that 50 years and their music is still. And you know what I've always, whenever I talk about the Beatles, the thing I find amazing is they did all that in like 6 years.
Yeah.
Can you imagine making that much impact
Jimi Hendrix.
on the world?
Jimi Hendrix, what a little window that was.
These guys, just changed
Well,
the
they didn't
world.
mean to. That's why they made it.
Yep.
You got to remember, before that,
Happy
what was
accident.
the music.
Yep.
The music was more like Bobby Darin and that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden, the Beatles, which I got to include the Stones and the Kinks, the Who, all those bands
Jimmy, the
changed-
Doors, all of them.
changed him.
Yep.
Changed me and Sapir, Marquez, all them guys. And they
Hey,
didn't
can I
know how
play
to
you guys a song?
Yeah, you want to play a song?
Hey, go grab that other guitar. It's already tuned.
Please.
Please.
Yeah, let's do one. Well, we'll sit here and chit chat for a little. So, what was the first song you learned how to play?
I think Gloria.
Gloria.
I think that my sister played it all the time on a 45 by them.
Uh-huh.
Thank you. And I just ended up asking other musicians how to do it.
And then when was the first time you played in public where you kind of sat there and says, oh, or the first time you sang in front of people, whether it was in school or someplace where you kind of got hit by the bug when you got up there and people liked it, maybe you got a few applause, then you said, ooh, boy.
My wonderful grandparents liked to keep us off the street as much as she could. She would have a party for us teenagers in my backyard at my grandma's house. And she let our band play on the thing. We didn't even have a bass player. It was 2 guitars and drums, but all the girls danced. So next thing you know,
Is that when the girls were coming up and asking for your phone number? And he means it.
So where'd you get your first guitar?
T. Ross Music in Struthers. I can remember that I went there and I took guitar lessons for a while off a guy named Sandy Jack and Tell. And my grandmother rented me a guitar that probably cost $25. The strings were like out here. You could hardly press them down. But because after 30 days of me down in the basement going, hey, Grandma! And next thing I know, she said, because you're really showing that you want to do this, I'm going to buy you a real guitar. And I'm like, thank you. And she took me over there and bought me this beautiful red National solid body guitar. And it was really cool. I had it for about 6 months. And I traded to somebody for something else. Then I traded that for something else. I ended up going through like 30 guitars or something.
And you're still probably doing that too, right? You still see something, or what's your favorite guitar that you have?
Right now, that one right there. I'll show it to you.
Okay.
Here, Jack, you hold this.
Oh
one.
yeah, I can look like a guitar player online.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey,
so
brother.
yeah, strum a little something there,
Oh,
Jackie.
yeah.
Come on, man.
Imagine all the people go ahead. Living life in peace. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Now, this is a custom guitar. It has an unusual neck on it. It's a 24 fret Fender Stratocaster neck.
Nice.
There's not a whole lot of them, but here's one.
Nice color.
These are
Yeah, I do
Seymour
love the
Duncan
color.
pickups,
Awesome color.
Go Top Bridge, Fender locking tuners, Eddie Van Halen electronics.
Wow.
And it really plays well. And I'll be using this Saturday night at Jack's show.
Oh, we are
Youngstown
gonna
Rock and
rock
Roll
too, boy.
History Show.
Oh boy.
And
Jim closes the show every it's 14, our 14th year, and Poobah closes the show every Saturday night. And boy, it's really tough when it comes to 11 o'clock because we're at a club where we got to be quiet after 11, and it's really hard to stop us or him from playing.
Oh yeah, this guy, he's a maniac once he starts playing. Yeah, that gray color of that guitar is really
Beautiful.
Sweet, man.
thank you. I really like it myself.
Is that rare color? Is that a rare color or is that a standard color?
I think I don't know how
I've never
many they
seen
made
them
of it.
blue like that.
But Fender owns that company, Charvel. That's one of their custom shops. And they really use some great sounding parts. You know, it's fun for me when I can pick up an instrument and it also plays me, because it's got those avenues for me to go down that some of the other instruments wouldn't have.
Yeah, that's a mean looking guitar right there. That's for sure.
This album here was recorded with that guitar.
Now, where'd you come up with the name Poobah?
Well, when I was 14 years old, me and the future Poobah bassist Phil Jones had a band. Then we played in the Days Ends, and then I played for a short time with him in a band called the Rubber Band. I didn't last too long in that, and I went and formed Biggie Rat. But at any rate, when I was going to Boardman High School, there was a rumor, you know, and you got those high school rumors that may or may not be true. And there was a girl there that everybody said was a kick your butt, man or not. Now, whether or not that was true, but at any rate, some of the senior boys had nicknamed her Poobah. And if you called her that, she'd go into a rage and try and stab you with a rat tail comb, I was told. You know, I've never witnessed it, so I'm not going to say it's fact or myth.
You ever thank her?
No, but I can tell you here that about a year after we made that album, we were playing a show in Youngstown. There was a very nice crowd there. You know, it seemed like people were really enjoying the music. And I looked down, and there she was. And Phil Jones looks over, and he goes, "She's gonna kill us."
Oh, is that where that song comes from? Now I know.
And you know, I'm not saying it's true or false. But they still called her that. And when it came time to pick a name for her band,
that took some balls there, man. That took some real balls there. That's for sure.
It could have been dangerous. It's really true. It could have been dangerous.
Now, Biggie Rat, man, you guys had a pretty good run with Biggie Rat. Tell us a little bit about that. I remember you guys opened for Ellis Cooper at Struthers Fieldhouse with Velvet Underground without Lou Reed, if I'm not mistaken.
Brownsville Station.
Brownsville Station, yeah.
And boy, that Brownsville Station was good with Cub Coda. Man, they were a great live band. That would have been hard for a lot of bands to outdo them. I never saw a rock and roll show that exciting.
So what was that night like? That was at Struthers Fieldhouse, Ellis Cooper, Brownsville Station, Biggie Rat, Velvet Underground.
Well, we had the week before that, we played at Cleveland Allen Theater opening for Mitch Ryder and Brownsville Station. and I got to be friends with Cub Coda, the guitar player. And he invited me and Scott Hunter, the bassist at the time, into the bleachers to watch Velvet Underground. We sat up there and chit-chatted. And then when it was time for Alice Cooper to play, my roadie at the time, Kirk Evans, he comes running to me. He goes, Jim, get back to the backstage door right now. Don't wait. Don't ask. Just go. And I go flying backstage, go back there. And here is my brand new Marshall stack being rolled up into Alice Cooper's truck by his roadies. This red-haired guy, I don't know what his name was, but I says, hey, buddy.
Al can't have this.
I says, what do you think you're doing? He goes, what? And I says, what do you mean, what? I says, there's a lot of cops right here. I says, are you going to bring it back or am I going to go tell them you're stealing it? He goes, oh, I didn't steal it. I thought it was ours. And I says, it's got my band name painted on the back of it. I told Alice Cooper's bass player, Dennis Dunaway, about that. He said they had to get rid of that guy. He was a klepto.
Oh, that's
Velvet
pretty
Underground
wild.
stayed at our house in Boardman, our band house.
Uh-huh.
They saved them motels for 5 people, you know?
Yeah.
And they were telling us stories, and they told us that that same guy stole their PA system in Los Angeles when they played.
Wow, no wonder they got rid of him.
Oh, that's
Well,
wild.
had to, or somebody was going to end up in jail.
Oh, yeah. And back in that day, that's the last thing you wanted if you were in a band, any kind of police involvement and anything you
Yeah.
had
What's that
going
in
on.
your pocket, sir?
That's the last thing anybody needs on their reputation is burglar.
Yeah, no kidding.
You took
No
my
kidding.
guitar, and now you won't give it back.
I want to say a shout out to beautiful Lori Powers. She's
Oh,
right
yeah.
over there.
We all love Lori.
Hi, Lori.
What a girl. Kid's a lucky man.
She's a percussionist and backup singer for Poobah. She'll be at the Youngstown Rock and Roll History Show.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that show here, Jack. You do the whole weekend, right?
Well, we do Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Who's your special guest Friday?
Friday night, we're going to have Ting Marklin. He's part of the Human Beings, and of course, he can't get everybody back, you know.
Right.
We're all
But they
getting
got
to
a
the
song
point
in
where
that movie, Kill Bill.
Yeah.
No.
How about that?
Nobody but
That's
me.
great.
And then on The Office, too, an episode of The Office, they did a whole
Yeah. Been on
a
dance
bunch of
to
stuff.
that
You
video.
realize,
Wasn't it on the Monsters or something? Something like the Addams Family, something like that?
Yeah.
they have a, you know, in what it was, 1964, 65, one of those years, and they had the top 100 songs in the United States. And of course, I think Please Please Me was number 1.
Understandably.
And number 2, take a guess.
I'm going to have, since we're talking about this,
Nobody
I'm
but
going to
me.
go out on a, that's what I was going to
Yeah,
say.
I knew that.
Shit.
But the point being,
Yeah, right.
think how grand that is for
Oh.
this area. Do you realize how
Oh.
many great musicians have come just from Cornishford?
Oh, yeah,
Let
we're going
alone-
to get to that in a minute
I mean,
here.
it's just
Yeah,
amazing, you know.
What's in that Northeast Ohio water?
there's something there.
It's called music.
Yeah. Now, you're talking about that human beings with nobody but me. Just the beginning of that. Just the
It's
opening,
awesome, ain't it?
Just the opening
It was
note
the
of that
perfect,
just drives
perfect
you
feedback.
in, man. Yeah, the perfect feedback. And then, boy, then that bass line comes in.
When
and
I opened a show for Dick Belly, that guitar player, at Idora Park, I just stood there and watched him do that. And I was like, that's how you do it.
He's still around. He's doing okay. You can't expect someone to come in there.
No, but you know what? He made part of music history.
And you know what's crazy about that, too? That shows you how Quentin Tarantino does his homework, that he used that song in Kill Bill, knowing how big the human beings were in Japan. And for them to use that song, a lot of people don't realize it, but that was, when I saw that,
That was a
knowing
great
what
recording.
you knew, and it was just like, boy, that guy's
Here's
on
a
the
human being
ball.
story that Ting told me. He says, a lot of people don't know this, but he goes, when we were in London at Capitol Records doing our album, he goes, Sergeant Pepper had just got done. So the studio decided to give the 4 of us a promotional copy. So he goes, you were there at the show, Jack. I go, where was it at? I don't remember.
Yeah.
But after he told me, I remember it was at the Idora Ballroom. The Pied Pipers played first, and then the Human Beings. He tells me, he goes, we came back and did Sergeant Pepper, the reprise, and Little Help from My Friends, and then the Sergeant Pepper reprise on stage at Idora Ballroom. Now, to me, this may be the most prolific moment in maybe all the world music history, because Sergeant Pepper was such a big thing with the Beatles that they played those 3 songs at Idora Ballroom in Youngstown, Ohio, before the album came out.
How crazy is that?
12.
He's so proud of that.
I wanted to walk up to him backstage at Idora Park and thank him for being so awesome, but I was too chicken. I didn't go back. And you know, somebody told me that he got his sound by putting a pinhole in his speaker. And whether that was true or not, I tried that.
Oh, no.
Oh, that didn't work.
Like, no, maybe it wasn't.
And I ended up having to go get a new speaker.
He has a lot of new things going on. I can't really say. There's some surprise stuff coming up.
Well, he's got a
It's gonna
legacy.
shock a lot of, what?
He's got a legacy of.
Oh, well,
You know?
well, when we see what's going to happen here, everybody that's still alive, that is, who knows who the human beings are.
They could still tour off the
Yeah.
hit that they
Oh,
had.
yeah.
It's such a monster.
Oh, yeah.
Sting is 76.
I want to
but you don't
open
wanna
the
go touring, though.
Yeah. My one buddy, he used to be the cop up at Mickey's back in the day, and you know, when they would be playing at Mickey's on Market Street.
Yeah, we went by it on the way here.
And he would always talk
Still
about you know, even at the end of the night, all the bands would end up there, and they'd all be jamming until like 6 o'clock in the morning, and the whole bunch of them would stagger out at 6 in the morning after
Go to
those
work.
were the days.
Yeah.
Really, I mean,
Walk out of there and go to work with no sleep.
Remember how we used to be able to do that?
Wow.
That was amazing,
well, I
man.
tell people I used to thumb across the country, and I said nobody even bothered me.
Yeah, you know what? You do have some interesting hitchhiking stories. Now, what are some of your hitchhiking stories? Because I follow you online, and whenever you come up with a
Me
hitchhiking
and Ed
story,
Hoffman decided we wanted to go see the Cincinnati Pop Festival, but our car, well, I had my dad's car, and it probably wouldn't have made it. And if he had found out we took it, he'd have been mad.
Oh,
Yeah.
boy.
So we decided, we thumbed everywhere anyway. So we're always in Akron, Kent, over in that area. We thumbed over there a lot, but it wasn't on those freeways. It was Route 7 or Route 224 or 46. You know, those were major routes in them days.
right?
But we went to the Cincinnati Pop Festival, and it was one of the big, it was in the stadium there, the Red Stadium. And the most amazing thing happened there that day. Me and Ed probably couldn't be from here to over 50, 60 feet away. And the place is packed. The whole place is packed. And Iggy Pop is playing, and he comes walking out, and he's walking on, it's online, you can go see this, not bullshit, people's hands, and he's walking like this, and he's singing like this, and he's walking on people's, holding them up. Steve, or we'll call him, as everyone knows, I know him as Steve, but Stiv, God bless his soul, hands Iggy a jar of peanut butter, and Iggy looks at it and goes, and he starts smearing it all over himself. There goes that Youngstown thing again. Who would think about bringing a thing of peanut butter? But Steve Baders.
What made him bring that in?
Who knows? Steve was different.
Now, were you thumbing
Maybe
with
his
him, or
friend
did you
had a
just
loaf
have to-
Me and Ed.
and
Maybe
you
his
have to run
friend-
into him now.
Yeah.
Were
Maybe
they
his
playing
friend
there,
had a
or
loaf
was
of
Dead
bread.
Boys playing, or was he just
Oh
there?
no, he was nobody then.
Uh-huh.
He was I should say that.
Yeah,
That's not
yeah.
what I meant. I mean, he
Yeah.
was just
I know what you
he
mean.
was just Steve.
Maybe
Yeah,
someone in his party had a loaf of bread.
So you're down there. You guys hitchhike to Cincinnati. Next thing you know, you wind up. You're in front of the stage here. There's Iggy Pop, and then out of nowhere, here comes Steve Baders with a jar of peanut butter, and Iggy Pop is standing there, and he hands him the thing, and he starts smearing the peanut butter.
Yeah,
on him.
it's written on one of my files in the Youngstown's Rock and Roll History thing, but there's just so many amazing stories. I mean,
Before Stig moved to New York,
wow.
he opened a show for Poobah at Yankee Lake. And he had a guy I went to high school with there on guitar named Tom McHugh. And Kirk from the bass player, Kurt.
Sunderman.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyways, they're there. And they come walking up to me and they're telling me they're how fun it is to be there that day at that concert. And they're getting ready to play. And I noticed that they'd taken white powder and stuck it all over their skin. They looked like they were dead. And they were called Mother Goose.
Right.
And I
Oh,
said,
my God.
Steve, you look like you're dead. Next thing I know, he moves to New York City and has the Dead Boys. I'm not taking credit or anything.
Right.
I'm just saying that I said that to him because they look like
You
they
must
were.
have hit. You must hit a vein there, you know.
I remember one time Mother Goose played over at the playground on Indianola in the Uptown.
I remember that place.
And I don't know what happened. Me and my buddies went out in the parking lot. We come back in, and I don't know what they did, but they kicked them out, and the band was gone. To this day, I never figured out. I
think
never
what
found
happened-
out what happened.
We're talking about Steve, right?
Yeah. Oh, expose himself.
Hey.
Yeah, well, everybody knows the story about the Ramones and him on
Oh,
680
boy.
and everything. Oh, what a character. What a
He
character.
was a good guy, really. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, that's
there's a
what
lot of people out there that think these certain guys that were musicians were kind of out of their mind. And it wasn't they were out of their mind, they were into their music further than what the normal person could see, because when you create,
Are you anybody in particular?
Well, yeah.
Present company included? Is that what you're saying?
one of the best guitarists from the Youngstown area ever. You know, he fits right in there with Phil Kagan. I admire him quite a bit because when we would pick him up on the corner of Berkey and Meridian Road when he lived with his grandma right there on the corner, me and Safara, Ed Hoffman, and yeah, it was Myron Grumbacher. So one day we're on the way to school. Wait to hear this one. We're on the, you know, Myron's a little redheaded guy, you know, so he's like, oh, maybe.
And for
15.
people that don't know, Myron went on to play drums for Pat
Pat
Benatar.
Benatar.
On all their
Yeah.
big hits.
And did
Yep.
a lot of great stuff. So we're on the way to school, and I drove. Safara's in shotgun, and well, I don't know what you guys know about, you know, astrology, but he's a Taurus, and he's a real nice guy. And he's kind of firm when he needs to be, but we're all real good, close buds. So we're riding along, and Ed's behind me, and Myron's behind John. And for months, it went on like, and Myron wouldn't stop. So finally, John turned around and said, Myron, will you please blank and stop it? And Myron goes, blank you guys. I'm going to be a famous drummer someday.
And he
And
was.
we all laughed all the way to school because he hadn't even touched drums. I mean, as far as any rock and roll. You know, but to think that, I mean, what a statement. That's like me saying, I'm going to be president in 2050. Well, Jack, you'll be 100. I know. It didn't sound normal for him to say that. But look where
How'd
he
he get
went.
with Rick
Oh,
Danner?
yeah.
Wasn't that through the Tomorrow Club?
There's so many bands that he was with that were
Jack Gerchak introduced him.
so many. Well, yeah, there's so many people that we also got to remember. There's so many people
Rest in peace, Jack.
that took these bands and helped promote them. Like we said, Gary, there's Gerchak did a lot of great stuff. I mean, and not him just alone. There's so many people.
He let me open for Judas Priest.
Yeah.
God bless you, Jack.
Well,
How crazy is that? We'll get to that in a minute.
I mean,
Yeah, when we get to, we'll get into the Tomorrow Club. Of course, Boots Bell. You got any stories about Boots, or
well,
have you ran into him? You know,
I haven't had any big stories with them, but the one that I liked a lot was me and Ed were at the front of the stage, and we didn't know Boots Bell really good, but we might have been doing something we shouldn't have been doing,
Uh-huh.
and we were acting a little silly. And he's standing on the mic going to introduce the band, and Ed goes, W-H-O-T or something like that, and he looked down and started laughing at us, and we got embarrassed. We kind of backed off to the back of the
I
crowd.
did a dance with him when I was 15.
You
Boots
danced with
Bell.
Boots?
No, he was the DJ,
Yeah.
and he was the first person to ever play me Pink Floyd.
Oh,
He
really?
played that Interstellar Overdrive off of that. I can't remember the name of the album. I think it was the first one. But there I was, 15-year-old me, and he's playing that, and everybody's listening to
Piper
it
from
there.
the Gates of Dawn.
Yeah, right.
It's just asking.
But that's how I met Boots Bell.
Oh, that's crazy. When was the first time you ever heard one of your songs on the radio? You remember?
Well, when I was 15, WHOT put the Days Ends on the Battle of the Stars that they would have. And we got all our high school friends to call the station. And for 7 nights in a row, we won. We beat Steppenwolf, all these other great bands, because all our friends from high school were
How
calling
do you spell
in.
ends?
It was DAZEENDZ.
Yeah.
And then on the 8th night, we lost to somebody. I don't remember who it was.
But see, that's when radio was really fun, and things like that, that you would get people involved. I mean, that was like an automatic listener driven thing.
Well, that was
Because,
before
you know,
8-track.
and just think, because every week they would have that, and everybody's band are telling their whole family and the call up and stuff. I mean, that was some of the stuff that they used to do back in the day. It was so savvy marketing of doing that, but it was also fun. It was so much fun. It made it fun. Everybody was involved, and you just don't see that today. And
When FM took off,
yeah,
that seemed to really, you know, the radio when it first came out, wasn't it so different all of a sudden when
Yeah, because
FM
the
first?
Beatles
Right.
happened, and that changed everything.
And I heard Bolin on the alternative
102.9,
103.1, which
yeah,
is what
right.
now, Y103.
Right.
And I am driving down the street in my car, and all of a sudden Bolin comes
It's
on
me.
Y103, and I was like, "Is this real?" I'm like turning the volume up and down to make sure I'm not dreaming. Or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. Well, you know what? That's what really kind of switched me too. Well, you know, when they started, you know, when the so-called underground, you know, radio came about there, like probably like around 1970, 71, you know,
That
before
was
the
an
Wizard.
interesting time.
Yeah, and you know, when it was free form and it was wide open, well, just like everything was, you know, I mean, the music itself and bands and everything. So you had this going on, and that was right about the time when, you know, one of the big things in music was, after so many years, Led Zeppelin knocked off the Beatles as melody makers' #1 band.
That
And the
heavy
Beatles were
sound
like,
came in.
yeah, they were like, for 10 years the Beatles held that, and that's when things started changing towards the FM, and you know, people started, you know, shifted away from I Want to Hold Your Hand and the Stairway to Heaven,
Yes,
and
came
things
and
like
Moody
that.
Jerry
Blues.
Starr
Right.
would play an album every night, I
Yeah.
think.
Oh yeah.
Those are good times.
And I can remember one of the first times I've had on
Thomas John.
yeah, when I had 102.9 the alternative, but it didn't last that long, you know. Then they moved on to, I think they were kind of like an easy listening or a top 40 or
Trying
whatever.
to make money and survive,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
Times changed.
So I could remember this.
Disco changed.
I had this Sony radio, portable Sony radio, and it was the first Sony radio I had that on the dial, when you would hit a station that was FM stereo, the little light would come on the
Yeah, I
dial,
remember
you know,
that.
and you would turn it down, and you would, you know, and you would turn it, and then all of a sudden, boom, and I hit 102.9, and that little red light came on the dial, and I could still remember the songs that they played in my head, because you know, once I heard that, I was like, oh man, they played Crosby, Stills, Nash, Sweet Judy Blue Eyes, and then they played Janis Joplin, Move Over, and then they played Aerosmith from their first album. What is that?
Train kept a rolling. No, that was second.
Or
one.
no, moving on. Because
Moving on.
because
Okay.
both of them had, you know, moving in the title, because that was another thing. Oh, 2 songs about moving. It was Janis and it was Aerosmith. And then they played The Band, The Weight, and then there was one more. And I heard those 4 or 5 songs in a row, and I was just like, it just changed me. It was like, that is some of the
They
best
play
music
almost anything
I
back
had
then.
ever heard.
Well, that's because Crosby, Stills, and Nash brought in a whole new different thing. It wasn't like bust your balls on guitar and, you know, come up with this psychedelic lyrics.
It became
It
about
was
vocal
telling a story
harmonies.
about
It's
maybe
good stories.
your place where you came from and telling the whole story.
Yep.
Hey, Mike Fortino. Hey,
Hi,
Daniel
Mike. See you
Thorpe.
tomorrow.
Hey, Kevin McIlvain. Hey, Lori Fires. I want to do a shout out. Mike Fortino on drums.
Oh, and hey, I got to give a shout out to my lady, Jade. She also has filmed the Rock Fest for 14 years, and she kind of stays in the background a little bit. She's a little shy, but
Jack, you've done a lot to preserve the history of music in this
Unbelievable.
well, you
Great
know,
He has
job.
such a
Great
great,
job.
he knows everybody. He's
It's
got such a
about-
great memory.
the savings, like I was trying to tell you earlier, it's like what inspired me was like the Moody Blues for our children's. So I thought many times, and that's going to sound a little weird.
That's okay. Look who's here. Something weird on this show? Never.
No, it's like I always tell people if I meet them or know them or not, I always tell them, do you know your grandparents? And sometimes I go, well, yeah. And I go, and then I got to go a little further. I go, well, how about your great grandparents? And they go, well, no. And I go, any pictures or any anything? Oh, no. And people don't realize that is your seed that you came from. Those people, without them people, you wouldn't be here. But yet you have no idea what they even look like, what hair color, what did they play a guitar? What did they do? All right. So I always thought, this is when I first started, I thought, well, why not save the memories? What, like they wished more or less, I wished I could see my great grandma and grandpa doing the jig, having a little drink, and not being dirty, but just having fun.
Right.
Boy,
I
would
should
give
have a new
lot of
album
money.
coming out soon.
I'd give a lot of money for that.
Yeah.
So therefore, I thought, why not say? Because to me, and this sounds kind of corny, because people have asked me why Northeast Ohio and Western PA, why not further out? And I go, well, when we got in the car, like you did, he did, we went as far west as Canton, Akron area, maybe up into Cleveland, Painesville. I mean, over in Erie, down Newcastle.
7 nights a week.
Yeah, 7 nights a week down in the
with a buzz on, it didn't matter, hey.
Go see all those bands.
We go down into Pittsburgh. We wrap ourselves up around the Youngstown area. So more or less, if we would have went out 20 or 30 more miles west of Canton, Akron, we wouldn't have known any of those people. So if somebody wants to join my site, it's a closed site. It's not just for everybody, just like the Rock Fest. If you're not invited, don't come.
Right.
But what we're trying to do is preserve the memories, and not just of the musicians, but of the soundmen and band boys. I have an RIP section where it's a terrible kind of thing, but we've lost probably 4 or 5, 6 maybe people, maybe a little bit more since we started Rock Fest. So every year we try to give a little shout out to those people because, it's tough.
See, that's pretty much what I try to do a lot with this podcast too.
And
is to keep all the guys, the memories of all the guys that I know, and even like the Boots Bells and the Johnny K's and the 102.9, the alternative, and just all that kind of stuff. And we all kind of some respect to them because we're still carrying on what these guys set up for us, and that's how I look at it, especially like with guys like Boots and stuff. I'm really one of the last guys out there that's like an old school radio guy that still goes out and does gigs and does all that kind of stuff.
God bless you that you do that, because
it's
just
cool.
Like we need him and we need me, we need you to do what you do, because this is what promotes not only Poobah, Youngstown's rock and roll history, but what you're doing is you're saving your shows. And think about it for the future. Now, when you have grandkids and you're long gone, or you have great grandkids, and I go, look at great grandpa.
Yeah.
He was something on grandma.
Yeah.
But that's what people don't understand. It's about saving for the future.
And what's really crazy is, and one thing we talk about on this show a lot is people don't realize how we were so immersed in rock and roll back in the day. I mean, it was like our religion. It was our lifestyle. I mean, we lived for rock and roll.
I still am.
Yeah. Well, we still are. We still are. But I mean, it was just like everybody, man. I mean, it was sort of like a religion.
Almost.
Yeah. Go see bands.
Bad at times, because there was a time that, we're all been kind of maybe not right with our parents at times. And I'm guilty myself. We wrote a song about 4 months ago where my ending line is, I'm guilty myself. And it was about how my mom said, Jackie, would you run and get me some Raleigh cigarettes and some beer before you go to that rock and roll place? And I had Safara and Ed Hoffman and Myron in the car. And I go, I can't, Mom. I said, I got girls to pick up and things to do. And I walked out on my mother.
Oh, but don't let it be too hard.
No, I mean, it's not a bad thing. What it is, it's a testimonial to that we're aware of things that we did, that it's not an embarrassment.
You were young and living for the moment.
Yep. Exactly.
Well,
Yeah, you
you
had
know.
all them crazy lunatics in your car.
I'm
You were gonna
lucky
pick
I
up girls,
survived. After the life I lived,
Well,
I'm
you know,
lucky I
Or the
survived.
sunshine didn't make it in.
That's another one. We were talking about, the Youngstown studio. We're located right across from the Youngstown YMCA here in downtown. And remember back in the day, we used to have those teen dances down there. And those places every Friday or Saturday, whatever night they did them, remember how packed those places
There's
Yeah,
would
thousands
be?
of people.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Not hundreds, thousands.
They'd have that gym in there, and these guys would play, and Left End would play, and
I remember
Coconut.
Phil Jones told me Poobah was going to play it out there.
Yeah.
And I got down there. I thought, there won't be anybody there at the
Yeah.
YMCA. And I get there, there's like 2,000 people.
Oh, yeah. That was just like a meeting place.
We don't have
Everybody.
them times no more.
No. And
Well, they were playing Mr. Destroyer on the radio that week that I played there, I think.
Uh-huh.
And that really showed the power of the radio, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And, then, and people don't realize like how big the teen dances were. We'd play, we'd be, going to see you guys at some of these places like the Eagles Hall over here. I remember one big show. I'm pretty sure you guys were there. It was at the Ukrainian Hall over on the west side of Youngstown. And I think
Brainchild, Left End,
yeah.
Coconut,
Yeah.
There were so many
B.E.
places
Taylor.
to
B.E.
go.
Taylor,
Sweet
Sweetwater.
Lightning.
Yeah,
Sweet
Sweet
Lightning.
Lightning. How about that
Biggie
band from
Rat.
Pittsburgh?
I played in
yeah.
Biggie Rat and Poobah that day.
Yeah.
And boy, that Shirley was a great singer, man.
And-
she could work a crowd. She had
Oh,
all those
yeah.
people screaming.
Uh-huh.
And I'd like to think that we helped too. But I mean, it really was a fantastic response.
And you had like 10 bands like that. And that Sweet Lightning, all of those guys went on to big things. And,
Well, we're
you
doing that
guys
now,
and
right?
Left
I remember
Hand
at that
and-
show, we were going over so good that one of the other bands sent their roadie over and he unplugged my amp in the middle of a song.
Uh-huh.
I'm not going to say which band it was. They were very popular.
Uh-huh.
And the black-haired guy who unplugged my amp,
Baker again, huh?
I caught him, you
Yeah.
know, and I'm playing, and
Yeah.
I'm thinking if I wasn't going to play this guitar right now, I'd punch you right in the eye, but I didn't, and I went and plugged my amp back in and finished the song, and the crowd went nuts.
Yeah. Now, what's another one? I think you guys played. I see these flyers and ticket stubs and stuff around from various places. Wasn't there a big thing at Mercer Raceway at one point?
Oh
too?
yeah, I
think
remember
with
playing
Law
there with.
and, Blue Ash might have been there.
I
Frank
can't remember if
Sessage,
it was Mercer Raceway or the other one. I can't remember the name of it. Frank Sessage would know.
Yeah. Oh,
But
that's another
we
guy.
played with
a
Wild Cherry and these bands from Pittsburgh, and Poobah played, and some other bands, but I've forgotten. And I remember playing again with Blue Ash over at where that movie theaters where they showed Fritz the Cat and stuff like that.
Right.
After the bands, they had
Yeah.
Underground.
R-rated cartoons after the band.
You wrote Underground?
See, wasn't that a lot of fun though? I mean, those days were just. Is that where you come up with it?
No, actually, though, I've written so many songs now that sometimes a certain song, every time I hear it, one that I wrote, it reminds me of a person or a place.
Well, I like that.
There's
song.
a new Poobah album coming out soon, so be watching for it, everybody.
Oh, that'll be wild. So, well, let's talk a little bit about the Tomorrow Club. I mean, of course, that was legendary. Now, you guys played there pretty often, right?
Yes. And one time Jack got mad at me and told me he was never going to hire me again because I asked for a raise. But he finally relented by me coming in and saying, Jack, look, I've drawn all these crowds for you. Come on, man.
Yeah.
And he actually ended up giving me the raise. So I guess sometimes you just got to ask, right?
Right. So what were some of your memorable shows down there?
Judas Priest, sold out crowd. There was people everywhere. And I'm over there on the edge of the stage playing my guitar, and I'm just looking at all these people, and there's all these eyeballs going. It was really great. There was like 2,000 people stuffed in there. And after we went over, the road manager for Judas Priest says, "Hey, bloke, come here." And I goes walking over there, and he goes, "I want to congratulate you because nobody threw anything at you guys. Just the last band got pelted.
I was going to say, you know, that's one thing about the crowds at the Tomorrow Club. We were just all so into all kinds of music. You know, that's why John Lee Hooker could play there, and then it's Judas Priest, and it's Alice Cooper, and it was Kiss.
I saw Alice Cooper there, and the band that opened for him got pelted, and they were good. It wasn't fair, but the audience pelted them. They were getting hit by cups and lighters and pennies and stuff. And they ended up having to leave the stage.
Oh man, I didn't see that one. Okay, I thought
was
everybody
mean
was
crowd
always
that
good.
night.
I thought, well, the other one that stands out in my mind is when AC/DC played there, and they opened for Mink DeVille.
That's fabulous. They blew him off.
Oh yeah, I mean they really.
He was good too.
Yeah,
it's just that they had so much energy. It was like a firecracker going off continuously.
Yeah, Mink DeVille, if he would have played there any other day,
You'd have
people
done
would
great.
have loved him. People would have loved him. I remember
who could follow Angus Young? God, he was a spark plug, man.
And he come out and he was wearing this real long, full-length leather jacket. I just remember this. And everybody was just yelling, AC/DC, AC/DC. And I mean, I think they only played like 6 songs. They come out there,
and a month later they were playing in stadiums.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, that was one of those moments where it was just like, whoa, did you just see what happened there?
I said, you may be headed for that because this Monster Magnet's really a big time.
I want to thank Monster Magnet for
right.
recording the Poobah song, Mr. Destroyer, that's on their brand new album, A Better Dystopia. Thank you, Dave Windorf, for calling me, and I gave him the lyrics and I gave him the chords and stuff. They did a bang-up job on it. Thanks, guys. And I really appreciate all the worldwide attention that you brought back to Poobah by talking about us in so many of your interviews. I saw them. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate it.
How cool is that?
Well, it's a seed that's going to grow for him because the recognition he's getting from somebody that's kind of big in Europe. And
Huge
so what's
in
happening
Europe.
is a lot of people like that song.
Yeah.
So what's that do? That makes them look back on his history and look at the bands he's been in and realize, wow, this guy has out albums. And what do?
Yep.
They buy that album.
Yep.
I see that their song, Space Lord Mother.
Oh, yeah, that's a great song.
Mother. Has like 22 million views on YouTube.
Yeah, that is a great song.
You can hear them do Mr. Destroyer on YouTube, or you can hear Poobah do it on YouTube. You can
Go to the
compare.
Poobah page. Compare the two.
Great
That's
new
what
video
I
that
think.
they put out on it.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
And I
saw
think they put it out
Video.
in 3 places, and combined it has like 100,000 views already.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Now, Jack, let's go back to Cornersburg, Ohio, West Side, Youngstown, Ohio, and all these musicians that were all there at the time. Let's talk a little bit about
We all
that.
lived in like one little neighborhood. It was like you take Cornersburg, and what people didn't realize, one corner's Canfield, one corner's Boardman, one corner's Youngstown, one corner's Austintown.
Right.
So I lived like right in Cornersburg, and I had buddies like him in Boardman, and I had good buddies in Austintown, and all around Cheney, and just it was just kind of by accident. Markowski wasn't doing anything. The only person who was really doing anything that was something in them days that I was driving around was Phil Kagi and John Safira.
What a career he's had.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
and that was a good time because you knew them people as just, hey, what's up, Fred? Hey, Jack. Not like, you're Phil Kagi.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that. He was, and you talk about a humble guy. He's one of the most humble guys you ever meet. Matter of fact, it was so nice of him when they played the Metroplex here maybe last year or two. First thing he comes out and says I am bragging a little bit because I don't get much recognition. But he comes out and says, thanks to Jac Riblet and Jade for Youngstown's rock and roll history, blah, blah, blah. And then he went into Can You See Me? So I'm kind of proud of that moment because
That's wonderful.
I'm not Poobah with my legendary albums and everything. Legendary rock and roll Europe guitars.
I got a Phil Kagi story for you. For some reason, his family moved to Boardman during his senior year. And
Well,
he was in my study hall.
His mom passed.
And my best friend started being his best friend.
Hey, I like this guy.
But the girl I was dating at the time became best friends with Phil's sister, Jerry. She would not allowed to see me because I had long hair. So I would go over to Phil Keaggy's house to visit my girlfriend or pick her up and leave and stuff. And one day I went over there and I had my guitar with me and I showed it to Phil and he played it for a minute. And then he picked up his Les Paul, which was a much more expensive model at the time, and started playing. And I sat down and actually played a couple songs with him, rhythm guitar, and I really watched every move he made.
Uh-huh.
Well, you guys, you know what you really are. You don't see it because
Sponges.
You're you. No, you're natural. It's like somebody that gets up there and sings on the mic and they've never really sang on the mic. I don't want to go into that, but just something like that. And the person sings a song and they blow you away and they've never been on stage. There's so many talented people.
Yeah,
So it's really hard for somebody to make it.
I think, like you and everybody else, though, it seems like you have to have a gift and it does have to come natural because, I'm sure you could pick up a guitar and just at this point, just hear things. And, all the guys that I talk to that are like that, and even they just started at this young age and it was just like, you're able to pick up that guitar and listen to that record. And there it is.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Whether it's him or Phil or any of these guitar players that I know, they're even Markowski, they're really, really good guitarists.
Yep.
And they're sitting there going, going, hey, did you know what time it is? She's coming right here. And it's really weird. They're not missing a lick.
Yeah.
More or less, they're not goofing up at all. They're actually playing.
Jerry Sanafani's another one like that. Jerry Sanafani
he took lessons at T. Ross Music. Do you remember seeing him?
He's from the South Side, so he just went across the street there, went across Youngstown Pole.
Great musician.
He played out Rockfest one year with Jim and Greg Frederick. And they just put a little thing together so that they could have fun. It was one of the closing shows.
We were drunk that night. I don't really remember.
The rain came. It's on YouTube. The rain came, and it rained like a son of a gun, boy. And they didn't stop. And they were still playing. And Chris Frederick, he played drums. Greg, his brother, played bass. Jimmy played guitar. Jerry was up there playing guitar.
Greg had some wild bass.
Oh, and you talk about
really
talent.
Different.
Wow. I mean, we're so lucky when we have Rockfest because it's a savings of these bands that want to, they're a little bit older people that don't really do what Jim does. It's a job, I said,
right.
Jim. And there's some people out there that like to do this, but they can't.
By the
really
way, my new album has Ozzy Osbourne's bass player is now vice president of that label.
That's pretty wild. Yeah, so now getting back to this whole Cornersburg thing, though. So, in this neighborhood, you had Myron Grombacher, who went on to play with Pat Benatar. And then you had, Gary Markowski, John Safara,
Myron Grombacher,
and Phil Keaggy.
Yeah, and it goes on and on and on. What's really
Myron was a great drummer.
We used to always think, is there something in the water? So we actually realized after I got a little older, I realized that, I don't know, this sounds a little corny, but northeastern Ohio, if you go up into Cleveland, there's some bands like Circus. Jim Quinn has actually sent us a really, I can't say.
Damnation of.
We've got a gift. We got probably 100
Adam
gifts
Blessing
to give away this year. He sent me a Damnation of Adam Blessing album. And it's the new one. And it's all sealed. He sent a bunch of pics. So you're going to get one of those. It says Damnation of Adam Blessing on it. And he said he was sorry he couldn't make it because he's in Florida. Or actually, he's in Atlanta, I should say.
He got me some jobs once.
Oh, yeah.
He was booking bands, and
there's another guy that I don't really know well. Maybe you remember him a little bit. You can help me out. His name is John T.I.T.A.
John T-Tech.
Boy, this guy sent to the fest to give away because I told him we don't make no money on this. This is all for fun. Free camping on night. No, you don't get to know where.
What did he send you?
He sent us 5 framed pictures. I'm not going to tell you who or whatever, but they're all framed. They're real nice.
Cool.
And then he sends
Hi, John
5
T-Tech.
or 6 albums. And then he sends a bunch of, just today I received them, 5 or 6, buttons like of all old Jimi Hendrix and just the weirdest stuff. And now I'm getting to the point, we've only got 2 days to give away stuff. And in the past events, we've had kind of a nice gifts to give away because we got to give the guys to get, because they don't have to do anything. Get off, unplug their guitars and take their sticks and get off the stage. Let the other guy come up if he wants to change their mic. We give them 15 minutes to do their thing.
Yeah.
And Thomas John and John Pacquiao and I are supposed to get up there, and we give everybody a ticket when you enter.
Hey, John
Gift
Badger.
Friday night,
Hey, Thomas John.
Saturday
Of
night.
course. Yep.
Yeah, Thomas John's another individual that I like to
Thomas
shout out.
John, what a great guy. You know, I had a chance to work with TJ for probably the last 10, 15 years. And yeah, I mean, he has done so much for rock and roll.
He has.
And the same with Mr. Sports, you know, he has done, you know, just
we did a
so
couple
much.
podcasts with Mr. Sports, John, you know.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I did a show with John Batcho
with
once.
the Summit, you know.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was
Yeah.
called.
Right.
And so, you know,
Vince
this is all good
Radilovic.
things.
He did the alternative Y103 when it was the alternative. Ralph Caldwell, Jimmy Green. They all played Poobah. Thank you, man. Thank you.
But anyway, getting back to what I was asking about this John T-Tac.
He was my booking agent for a year or two.
He was more of a guy that would get you jobs, and
He sent us all over the place.
Yeah, because I want to honor this guy a little bit for sending so much stuff. And, you know, in the beginning days of Rockfest, you know, everybody thinks you're going to keep it. You know, we don't do that. You know, that's the fun of this fest, is to give everything away and see everybody smile. You know, giving away albums that are not crap. These are still good albums. I even pulled a bunch of local albums out of my own collection that I had doubles of. So I thought, all right, I'll give that one. All right, I'll give that one. And so then Thomas John, when he comes, I asked him, I said, just you be in there. It's like if you come, you be in there. Just like he doesn't have to bring shit. He just got to bring himself. And you know why? Now, if you remember, all we ask you to do to come in is bring a nice cover dish. That's your entrance fee. Because then if there's like 100, 150 dishes in there to eat from, we all eat great.
Yeah.
Free camping. There's even a
I
pond
will
admission.
gain weight.
You know, it's free admission. It's on private grounds. So, you know, we got it made. It's got a big pavilion. We're going to do it all inside because, well, there may be some rain. And anyway, it's easier for the guys to roll their amps around. And stuff.
Thanks to all the great friends I've made at Youngstown Rock and Roll.
Yeah,
History.
so it's a
You
fun
guys all
time. We
rock,
have 2
man.
days, 5 bands Friday night, 5 bands Saturday night. And these are all guys that we'd like to thank very, very, very much for donating their time.
I've met a lot of great musicians through Youngstown.
Well,
Rock and Roll
because
History.
most people want to get paid. And the bottom line is what we've created here was an event. So, and that's why we only let so many people in. It's not, I don't even never posted the address because I don't want, it's not that I'm being ignorant or being mean to anybody. It's just I don't want, you know, them to show up and go,
But don't miss the
hey,
plane.
we saw this and, you know, we wanted to come.
It's a club.
We're trying
it's
to
really
keep
a
it
club.
for the
Yeah.
people that actually go, oh, I know that band. Oh, I like going to that place.
Right.
More or less, if you're from
Right.
Colorado, why do you want to join ours? Just
Yeah.
like us guys don't want to join a Colorado
Because I want to sell you some sunglasses.
or a Poobah album.
Yeah.
No, it was
It's
a
so
CD.
content.
Yeah, now you were talking about Myron Grombacher and then
Grumbacher.
or Grombacher and Rick Derringer. Now, wasn't there something where
He made several albums with them.
they were going to go or something? They had asked Gary Markowski to play with Rick Derringer, but then
that didn't
those
go over
guys
real
went or something like
See,
that.
there's a lot of different stories on that.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, since Myron lives kind of far away right now, and I still talk to him now and again.
Yeah.
He's kind of a quiet guy, you know.
Yeah.
It's like kind of like when I just seen John Safir and Danny Pacquiao just recently. They
Great
gave some
musicians.
gifts also to that, and seeing John again. We're also, you know, this may be inappropriate at this time, but I like to give a little shout out. He's one of my best friends that we've been together since we've been 14, 15-year-old kids. And I have probably 10, 15 reel-to-reel tapes of me and all my buddies just sitting in our room playing guitars and making up songs and singing Beatles stuff. And right now, John's in a terrible situation, and he needs help. I won't go on about that. Just check out about John and see what you can help him with. And as far as Danny Pacquiao, he still was up in Chagrin Falls. He's doing real good.
Yeah, he posted a really cool picture today of him and Eric Carmen at a birthday party. And that's when Eric Carmen had the great big hair. A classic picture. It's on his Facebook page today.
Well, he just sent in not more than a week ago a picture of a rare picture of the Poppy.
I saw them play.
And that, yeah, right. I've seen him so many. That was Roger Lewis.
Yep.
Now, who was all in the Poppy? Tell us a little bit about that.
I can't give you all that because I can't even go into
Dick
that.
Stroney, Dan Pacquiao.
Well, Pacquiao, Roger Lewis.
Yep. I forgot who the other guy was.
That's what I'm saying. See, what happens is we're not living in some small little smucky town where there was like 5 bands and we know everybody by heart. We're talking maybe 400 or 500 people, not just musicians, but people that all, and you were part of that, they were in this little group by accident. We didn't decide to be in this group. It was, I love seeing Poobah. Yeah. Me and Ed Hoffman were best of buddies.
I remember seeing you at so many shows.
And we remember seeing him a lot.
Before I ever knew him.
At Idora
I knew him as a face I recognized from all those shows.
Well, what we used to tell him, we used to kid him, told him one day, I'm a carpet layer by trade. I've been doing that for 53 years, and it's good money. So back in the day when I was just a young boy, 19, 20, and I'm learning to lay carpet. And couple people asked me that were kind of famous people, how come you never got in a band, Jack? You're a really good vocalist, why didn't you continue that? And I said, well, I didn't want to do that because I'm sitting out in the audience with my English cut coat and my puffy hair on my platform shoes with 4 girls around me watching you working for me. And they'd go, I'd get blank you, Jack. But the point being, that was my excuse because and then my bottom line is, like I told you, in them days, the money wasn't that great.
I remember seeing Myron at all those shows. Even if he wasn't playing, he'd be there seeing Phil Kagi.
Laying carpet, I would make a ton of money in one day, what they would make. But the bottom line is, you have to do what you enjoy.
Exactly.
And and that's why I give him a lot of credit, because I'm just a carpet guy that likes my history of rock and roll. And I made it a career and a job. So big deal. Carpet Jack, big deal. But what he's done, he's entertained us. I don't entertain people. I'm kicking carpet. That's not entertainment. Working, sweating. He actually gets on stage, and I'm kind of full of myself at times, but I don't think I got the Cunhas to get up on stage and do anything.
Lay it on the line.
I don't
let it all hang out, man.
But he did it since he was a kid.
Right.
And that's what makes it so natural. You don't got to get up there and go, I hope you guys like us.
Yeah.
He just plays a few things with the guitar, and everybody goes, wow.
I just hope all my equipment works right.
Yeah. Hey, give us another hitchhiking story. I love hitchhiking stories,
well, I can't
man.
give you a hitchhiking story, but I'll tell you one thing what we did do.
Okay. Give me a hitchhiking story. What do you mean
Gary
you can't give me
Markowski is playing.
story?
He's working for the Citations at the time as a band boy. And he kind of borrows their van. So me, Myron, Ed Hoffman, John Safara, who else was there? Larry Turney. And I think that was it. So he goes, come on, let's all get in the van. We're going to the Atlanta Pop Festival.
You borrowed their van?
No, he didn't borrow it. He kind of took it.
Yeah, well, we're going to say borrow for all intents and purposes. Yeah.
For the way the story
youth.
So now we get in his van, and we're only, this is 1969, 70, the Atlanta Pop Festival. And so we get in the van, and, well, we're partying all the way there. And the van's full of smoke. And then the next thing you know, we start smelling something really weird. And here what happened is the battery started burning up or emitting fumes. So we only had probably about another 30 miles to get to the concert. So we got our heads out the window and we're still driving on. And we all have really long hair, everybody. Even Myron had really long hair. And we look like a bunch of assholes riding down the road with our heads out.
Cheech and Chong, here we go.
And so we actually get there and realize, oh my God, there's 660,000 people here. So I can't give you the next part of the story, but Well, I'll give you part of it.
That's the best part. What do you mean you can't? Why do you think I had you on here? I don't want to hear that. Oh, and then I got the best part, but I can't get into this.
I'll tell you the best part, and then you won't have me on no more.
No, you'll be on even more.
We get out of the van, and there's 7 of us, and we're stoned. And we're like dizzy from this battery trying to get
the battery fumes also gave you an additional buzz.
Hey, you know how them battery fumes are, boy.
We're trying to get a grip.
Ah.
And we jump out of the truck and we're trying to get a grip. And we all went, and we all looked at one spot, like, and our mouths fell up, and we went. And here there was this most beautiful girl. Here's where I'm going to get in trouble. Sorry, ladies, but there was this most beautiful girl leaning back against a tree reading a book. Kind of not sitting together like she should. And she's sitting there, and we're all staring at you know what.
You're not supposed to look.
Yeah,
no,
right.
we're all freaked out because she was sitting there. And so I go up, I have the cunias. I go up and I go, "Hi, how you doing?" And she would not look up from that book. So eventually, what's funny about this, you know, we all like girls and stuff. But we got to the point where we got tired of looking at them. And we finally go, all right, let's go in. So we went into the concert and we found a really good place. And we couldn't have been more than 150 feet from Hendrix.
Wow.
Hendrix comes out on the stage, and there's 600, this is documented, 660,000 plus people there. And you could hear an effing pin drop.
Because he was an icon.
Stage, and everybody was quiet. And he comes up to the microphone and goes, "Are you experienced?" And the whole crowd went, "Woo!" Nuts. And he went right into, "Are you experienced?"
Who was playing bass?
Cox.
Billy Cox. Hey, Billy Cox.
That was fabulous. That was one of the most fabulous. And there was not just that band. There was, you know, Atlanta Pop Festival went on for 3 days. You literally slept in the dirt. Well, around the edge of the van in the grass. And, you know, and you're doing other weird things that.
Oh, no, you weren't.
But it's a good time.
Yeah, who else was there?
Well,
Johnny Winter.
You know,
10 years after.
I'm not real sure. Although I still have my ticket stubs and I still have the flyer from it.
Uh-huh.
The only reason I think I know some of the bands is because I bought the live album.
So what was it like to see Jimi Hendrix? That's one guy that I wish I would have had a chance to see Jimi Hendrix.
It was unusual because knowing a lot of good guitarists, he didn't just play like, I mean, or, you know, he was
really unique
out
at the
of his
time.
mind or something. And what was really weird,
trendsetter.
He was on stage and it was like he was meant to be there. It wasn't like he was trying to perform. It was like he just knew.
He was just a part of the whole.
It was just unbelievable. And the feeling you got of him being on stage. And everybody asked me, all the people that you've seen live, and I've seen a lot being saw all these concerts and stuff, but Jimmy's always been my favorite one because
you're lucky you got to see him.
Oh yeah, well, you know what? Here's what's really weird. We recorded it all on camera and on reel to, or not. I mean, on a tape thing.
Who's got it?
I got it on the reel to reel. And the weird thing about it is, it wasn't more than
Jack, my friend. I got to talk to you.
A few months later, he died. And then, you know, we lost Janis Joplin. Jim Morrison.
When I saw AC/DC a month later, Bon Scott was dead.
So okay, in 1969, you must have went in 70,
I mean,
right?
In 70, yeah, I did.
Okay,
well, you know, actually, in my article, we wrote a song called about Jimi Hendrix, and in that song, I messed up, and I go, "We were there in 1969." I should have said
70,
1970, but. Yeah.
Here's the 1969 lineup, and I'll get to the 1970. 1969 Atlanta Pop Festival, and this happened before Woodstock, and it was bigger than Woodstock.
Oh, yeah, Atlanta was unbelievable.
Yeah, this was before Woodstock and even bigger.
This wasn't in a stadium. This was on like some kind of hill. I don't know even to tell you. There was hills all over.
Allman Brothers, I'm guessing.
On this one, Blood, Sweat, and Tears, Booker T and the MGs, Butterfield Blues Band, Canned Heat, Chicago, Joe Cocker, Creedence, Delaney and Bonnie, Grand Funk, Tommy James and the Shondells, Janis Joplin, Al Cooper, Zeppelin, Pacific Gas and Electric, Johnny Rivers,
God.
Spirit, the Staple Singers, Sweetwater, 10-Wheel Drive, and Johnny Winter. Now that was 69.
Well, talk about a concert.
Oh, and then let's see here.
One of Mike Bloomfield was there.
Yeah.
Pacific Gas and Electric, wasn't that the guitar player from Kent that was originally in the James Gang?
I don't know.
I don't know if he was still in the band at that time, but I do believe he was in that. Maybe I'm wrong.
So
I
who
don't
was
know.
that from the 70s? You got that line?
Okay, I got this one now. Okay, here we go. The 1970 line. Well, let me go to this next one here. Okay, 1970 lineup. This was July 3rd through the 5th, 1970.
Well, my birthday was the 2nd, so it was one hell of a birthday.
And here we go. Allman Brothers was correct. All right, man. Okay, you get a point for that. Ballin' Jack, Blood Rock, Cactus, the Chamber Brothers, Goose Creek Symphony, Grand Funk,
Again.
Gypsy, the Hampton Grease Band,
Yeah, I remember
Richie
that.
Havens, Jimmy, It's a Beautiful Day, B.B. King, Lee Michaels, Mott the Hoople, Mountain, Poco, Procol Harum, Rare Earth, Terry Reid, John Sebastian, Bob Seger played there. The Bob Seger System played there. Spirit, 10 Years After, U.S. Kids, and Johnny Winters. Jimi Hendrix performed at around midnight on July 4th to the largest American audience of his career.
Cactus came in the bar that Biggie Rat was playing at, the Green. We were playing their opening for Catfish. Do you remember them?
Yeah.
So at any rate, we get done playing, and Catfish is on. After about 40 minutes, in comes walking Carmen Appice, how do you say his name?
Carmen Appice, yeah.
And Rusty Day and Jim McCarty from Cactus. And they said they had played over at Idora Park. And they came here after that show, and they got up on stage with the guys from Catfish and just tore the place
Why
down.
haven't you wrote that down in our history?
Well, I remember to
he's
tell you
playing
now.
guitar too.
Yeah, you got to write that down now. He's busy writing songs. He don't have
I was
time
just
for that.
blown away by Jim McCarty, how good he was, and Carmen Appice was a terrific drummer, and the singer was good too. Rusty Day, rest in peace. And I'm going to honestly say that we got blown off the stage by them. I mean,
Good times.
I was up there in the front. Yeah, great band.
I got a question for everyone out there. I posted this on my site maybe a week and a half ago. And the only reason I know it is because when I took my ride with John Sparrow, see Danny Pacquiao, me and John talked about this. And I asked him, I said, well, and he had already told me because I'm 71, so my memory ain't what it used to be. But he told me it again. I went, oh my God, that's right. So the question was to everybody, how did the glass harp get their name Glass Harp?
Well, that's a good one.
And no one knows. The one guy did come kind of close, and I gave him kudos for kind of coming close. But John, the way John told me the story, I can't tell you, of course. But I'm waiting to see who's going to come up with this answer.
I get it. Okay.
I ended up playing
might
some
even
shows
know it.
with Cactus again.
don't know.
I ended up playing in Erie Stadium with Cactus and Foghat and Canned Heat and Spirit. And then I ended up playing with them again at Hagerstown, Maryland Fairgrounds. And also Quicksilver Messenger Service was on that show, and Cactus and Canned Heat. So I ended up, and then I played with Canned Heat again at Wheeling Downs with Law and Wild Cherry. And I ended up becoming acquaintances with Bob the Bear.
Yeah.
From and a story about him is someone handed him a joint and he smoked the whole thing without passing it.
That's why it was called the Bear.
But everybody was starstruck, so they didn't care.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, they were probably having all.
However, I played in St. Catharines, Ontario with Poobah, and we were so glad after 5 nights of being there. We were ready to go back and see our friends and stuff in the United States. And the police come storming into the place at closing time. I'm thinking, oh my God, now what?
We're not going to get paid. No.
I didn't know what was going to happen. But the cop comes up and he goes, "Who's the leader of this band?" And I says, "I am." And he goes, "There's a sniper up on the 3rd floor shooting out the window. You got to keep these people in here." And I says, "A sniper?" And he goes, "Yes, he's shooting out the window." I said, "What if he shoots through the floor?"
Were you playing Mr. Destroyer?
So
It's
anyway,
good. Kill them all, buddy.
so when I wake up the next day, it's all over. They captured him, whatever. And I'm watching the news as I'm getting ready to leave to come back to the USA. And there's the guy that arrested bought me lunch in the cafeteria that day earlier.
The sniper.
You must have
Holy
said something to
shit.
him.
He was sitting in the back of the room in the crowd going, "Hey, Jim, you guys sound great." And then later on, he went up, got drunk, and started shooting out the window.
Oh,
The effect that Poobah has
man.
on people.
Now, that is a wild-ass story
Yeah.
right there. Wow.
You can't imagine how many more there are. Let me tell you.
Well, there's
We
definitely
could
some
go on
more.
for hours.
Yeah, so what were some of the other big gigs like that you played?
Well, I played at Nelson Ledges Quarry Park with Blue Oyster Cult and David Allen Coe.
Oh, boy.
What a crazy guy that guy
Oh,
is.
did you get a chance to hang with him at all? Or?
Well, you know, I didn't know who he was, and I was sitting in a bar, and he goes, "Can I buy you a drink? I saw Ohio plates on your car."
Uh-huh.
And I was in Nashville, and I didn't know who he was, and I sat there and talked to him for probably 45 minutes before the road manager come up and said, "Hey, we got to go. We're going to Memphis to make a record with Billy Cox." Well, at any rate,
Yeah, that piqued your interest.
I says, "What's your name?" After talking to him, he goes, "David Allen Coe." I sat there and drank with him for 45 minutes. I never knew. And the only reason he came up to us is because when I pulled up with the drummer, Steve Rorba, the Ohio plates, he goes, "Hey, you guys are from Ohio. I'm from up by Cleveland too, blah, blah, blah. And can I buy you a drink?" And I was, "Yeah." So that was my David Allen Coe story.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize he's from Akron. They look at him like, you know, they think he's like some
he's from
kind of
Nashville.
Texas outlaw or
Yeah,
whatever,
right.
and you know, and the guy's really from Akron, which I think is kind of funny. I'm pretty sure his
I
old
heard
man-
some stories from his band members about him having a rehearsal, and he would be not at the rehearsal. He'd be with one of those guys' old ladies while they were practicing the song. Now, I don't know if this is true because I heard it from a former band member, and he might have been angry.
You had to take it out on someone.
Oh, that's
Well,
a good
I opened
one.
a show for Cheech and Chong. In
What was that like?
Columbus. Smokeadelic.
Wasn't that downtown?
Backstage, there was people smoking pot. I mean, I just couldn't even believe it. I was so outraged.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
And there was girls running around in little tiny bikinis.
Oh, that really bummed
And some
me
of them didn't have anything on. They were running around back there. And I'm just like 19 years old going,
out. Well, I'll take you into that. And you see what's under that bikini, huh?
Yeah, my funny one. The one time when Tommy Chong was at the Funny Farm over there at the Metroplex, and we did like this thing where, you know, somebody rolled the world's largest joint. You know, I mean, it was like hay, and they had this big, like 20-foot joint that they somehow concocted with bed sheets and everything, you know. And we had that there, and then somebody else got like an air compressor and made this like gasoline powered bong. None of this really worked, but people were just putting contraptions together and bringing it out there to win tickets and stuff. Yeah. So Tommy's there and he's hanging out. And so then this guy comes with a rent-a-car to drop off a rent-a-car to him. And the guy looks like my grandfather, right? And so now Tommy's standing there out in the parking lot. And so this guy's giving him this thing to fill out. He hands him this clipboard. Well, in the meantime, everybody is handing him joints left and right. So this guy is standing there to give him the rent-a-car. Tommy's putting joints behind his ears. He's tucking them in his pocket. He's putting them everywhere. And then he looks at the guy and he gets a joint like he's signing the thing with a joint for an ink pen. And this guy hadn't a clue. It was almost like something from the movie because this guy is just standing there with like this blank look on his face, you know. And then he just takes the thing and away he goes. I'm just sitting
Now,
there.
there's an amazing job.
And it's like, you just gave this car to this guy that's got joints behind each ear, every pocket and stuff he was putting them in, and he signed the thing with a joint. And and then
That's called excessive.
That's funny.
And then another one, well, at the show, he started doing that thing with, Fifi, the French poodle, sniffing the other dog and all that stuff. Well, he would get people out of the audience. He would get women out of the audience. And then he would get them on all fours on this table and start sniffing them and stuff and start trying to hump them and everything. Well, finally, he almost got his ass kicked on more than one time. So he just ended up doing that with his wife. And I'll tell you, when he did that one at the Funny Farm, I swear this guy was going to come up on stage and grab him. Oh, and I even asked him about that
because it was his wife.
Yeah. And I said, I remember that one guy was really kind of pissed at you. And he goes, I had to quit doing that. He goes, I almost got my ass beat a couple times.
I got another story for you. You know who Susie Quattro is, right?
Yeah.
Well, her brother made an album with Rick Derringer and was promoting it, and he did a show at somewhere in Ohio, and I got booked as an opening act. And I can remember the promoter coming up to me, and he's really mad, and he goes, "That won't come out of his motel room until I get him a dish of fresh strawberries." I wasn't going on stage.
That's called.
He got his dish of fresh strawberries.
That's called musician. Make me cough on that one.
Oh, man.
I was backstage with Judas Priest, and I'm telling the guy how much I like these songs, and I says, "What do you think of Jimmy Page?" He goes, "Not much." I'm thinking, boy, it's just like talking to some Youngstown band about the other band. Well, they're all right, but we're good.
You got to remember how many bands were competing that time. Like I said, this ain't a city where there's 5 bands in. There's probably 50 or 60 bands, and they were like,
well, speaking of Bob Height, he grabs this guy who's standing there, his girlfriend's hand, like he's saying hello to her, and then he won't let go of it. And she's trying to pull her arm away, and he's holding on to it. That's rock and roll, kids.
Oh, man. Yeah, nowadays they want to sue you and ban your concert.
Yeah, don't touch that.
Or
when they were saying, maybe.
Yeah.
Don't touch that now.
You remember when I think one of the first shows that Poobah played was at that bowling alley on South Avenue.
Oh, I was there. I was going to bring this up. I was going to bring this up when you start talking about the cops. When you said the cops come walking into this bar, and I was going to jump in right there and say, "Oh, here we go."
We only got to play about half our set, and all of a sudden the room's filled with an army of police.
Snipers.
Yeah, no sniper.
I thought, what happened? Did somebody get killed or something?
No, but somebody will.
No, not with this. This was at the Southway Bowl on the corner of Cameron and South Avenue. And we were there. I was in high school at the time. And all of a sudden, the paddy wagon pulls up. The cops come in.
Were they looking for a specific person?
And they just start busting it. I still don't know what happened to this day.
It was just a bunch of long hairs, and it was
early
70s.
Yeah.
Stuff.
And my
all
buddy
go insane.
My buddy worked at the bowling alley, and he lived in the house right next door in the back. And I was standing there, and he just comes over and goes, "You got to get the hell out of here right now." He goes, the cops are up front. He goes, "Come on." And so I go out the back door. Next thing you know, there's paddy wagons and everything. They're dragging kids
I saw
out.
my audience all getting dragged out. I'm like, what?
That was the craziest. That was
I still had 5 more songs to play.
Yeah. As soon as you said that about the cops in Canada, I was going,
well, they didn't do anything to us.
Yeah, I know.
And after everybody left, after they drug off the audience and ended the show, and I don't even know why. I mean, I never did find out.
Me either.
I just told you they were smoking Mean Green.
That's probably what
I didn't smell anybody smoking weed in there. I didn't smell one bit. I mean, maybe someone was outside in the parking lot or something. I don't know. But I know this much, that we get back to our band practice the next time, and we open up the drums, and there's a big bag of weed in it. Somebody threw in there when the cops came.
Whoa, I'm out of here. It's all yours, bro. I'm out.
It back?
Well, I didn't smoke the stuff.
Of course not.
But like I say, man, I just my buddy goes, "Hey, the cops are up front.
I
You
said,
better
you
get out of
guys
here."
take it.
And I was right there by the back door, and I went right down there, and I went up the street, and next thing you know, man, I mean, that place was just swarmed with cops.
And some kid was standing out on the sidewalk going, "Somebody stole my weed."
Oh,
That wasn't me.
I like that song because I just listened to that the other night, and I kind of really listened to it real heavy to get the words. And he goes, "Man," he goes, "I found it in my pocket." And the funny thing that made me laugh, he goes, "Oh, now I gotta apologize." I laughed my ass off.
Blaming everybody
Me and
else.
Jay sat there and laughed our ass off that night. Now I gotta apologize. The way he said, "If I gotta apologize."
Hey, Joe, what are some of the comments up there? I can't see them on my phone.
All right, so I will read them. So, Old Grim says, "Howdy, Jim, Jack, and Fred." TJ Johnson says, "Hey."
TJ was at that.
Jim.
TJ was at that thing on South Avenue. I think he was running lights
He
that
was on
day.
Light Man, Tim
Yeah.
Johnson.
Yep.
Mark says, "What's up, all?"
Hey.
Chuck says, "Hey."
Hey.
Jim Peterson says, "Jack, love the Facebook page and all. Thanks for telling the story of R&R in Y-Town."
You're
Cool.
most welcome, my brother.
TJ says the Southway Lanes was the bowling alley you were talking about.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And then TJ says again, curfew in Youngstown. It was a underage joint.
Uh-huh. Oh, okay. All right. TJ was on the ball there, but
Thank you, Tim.
Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow, TJ.
yeah. So that was
Say hi to Birdie.
So then you brought this here little book here, The Gold Mine, along with you. And this is from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about this.
The Record Collectors Magazine, Gold Mine Magazine, I ran into the editor at the Cleveland Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and he said, "Jim, next year we ought to have Poobah up here to play because you guys are one of the most collectible vinyl artists in the world." And I'm like, "Really?" And I said, "Yeah, I'd love to play here." So we ended up doing 12 shows there during those shows over a period of like 8 years.
And then look at here you are, man. Okay, there's a story in there about the Doors. And then we got the Deadbeat Poets with Frank. We got Grayface. We got Blue Oyster Cult.
And then
that recognizable mug right there.
Oh, Blue Oyster Cult?
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it away. One of the framed pictures are like this big by that big, and one that's a poster from Atlanta, Blue Oyster Cult, with a ticket in it.
And
Cool.
nice interview in here with Jim.
Well, I ended up getting asked by the music magazine Gold Mine to appear at these shows, and then they ended up letting me pick some of the other bands that played at the Rock Hall. So I ended up doing that for several years. And Deadbeat Poets was one of the bands I picked to play up there because I felt that Frank deserved it for his worldwide fame.
Oh, not only that, he's been around just like you. He's one of our Western PA representatives.
He made some good records with Blue Ash and Steve Baders.
Oh, yeah.
And Deadbeat Poets. And some of the other bands were real good too from around the state. And I'm really appreciative that I got to play at the Rock Hall 12 times. It was really a lot of fun. I mean, really some great memories. Got to play there with the guys from Alice Cooper and Blue Oyster Cult and Glass Harp. And it was just a riot.
I know.
It really
How did
was.
you beat that?
I had trouble with getting any sleep.
Okay, so tell us about Keith Moon at one of your shows.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I went and I saw The Who in Pittsburgh. Me and Scott Hunter did. We went there and we enjoyed their show. And then the next night in Cleveland, we were playing at the Agora. And just as the show is about to end, about 30 minutes before the end of the performance, I look in the audience and there's Keith Moon and John Entwistle standing there watching us. And I just seen them the night before and I was like, and so the 30 minutes went by pretty fast and we went over there. "Hey, can we get your autograph? Hey, how many houses do you have? How many cars you got? How many times you been married?" John Entwistle was so nice to us. He goes, "You guys were really good. I really liked your band." And he goes, "How would you like to be my guest tomorrow night at the Who show. And I was like, so he said the whole band could come, all 5 of us, right? Well, we showed up with 13 people, and they let all 13 in. The guy at the door of the public hall goes, I thought there was only 5 of you. And I said, well, this is our crew that works for us. They let us all in. I thought for a minute they were going to kick out our friends, but they didn't.
That was a good show there, too.
And you know what was really wild about that? The backstage pass they gave us was a badge. And it said, James Gang rides again, rides again. And that was really weird that James Gang wasn't playing there. Someone stole it.
Oh, boy.
Somebody stole my badge.
There's a new song right there for the next album. Somebody stole my badge.
Here's a show that's coming up in Maryland, Halloween. This is Poobah headlining. There's 52 bands on this show in Frederick, Maryland.
Nice poster, too.
Yeah, that really is nice.
And
4 heavy nights in Frederick.
next week we'll be in Parkersburg, West Virginia at the Parkersburg Homecoming Dimex stage. And then the week after that, we'll be in Walker, West Virginia at a show called The Monster with 6 really good bands. And after that, we'll be in upstate New York. I forget.
Well, it's nice that you can still do this and make a living at this. You know, it's not an easy job to do a musician and make, enough to make a living in,
Well, one thing that I've done that was really hard to do was playing a lot of original music, because most of the bands that bars hire are just cover bands. And I'm not knocking them. I'm just saying that's what they do. And when you try to do some other formula, sometimes they're not even going to give you a chance to get your foot in the door even once, especially when other people are like,
Yeah.
look at the horrible shoes he has on. Well, anyway, you just show this is
for
one
being
of them
able,
things.
I give you a lot of credit for that, to be able to do your music and make a living at it and doing original music. That is a difficult feat in itself.
Thank you.
That is.
I'll add to that. You think? No, it is. You got that right.
I feel like I've been very lucky too now, getting songs in Nick Nolte's TV series. Sophie Turner from X-Men and Game of Thrones, I got a song in her movie. I got one in the guy from Superstore's movie. I got one in the girl from Breaking Bad's movie. I got 4 in Ed O'Neill's movie with Boom Boom. And I have that one in Nick Nolte's TV series. So I got 9 songs out there now floating around in Hollywood projects. And my agent says I'll have more soon.
Oh, that's pretty wild.
Hey.
Hey, don't ever get too big. You can't come back on the fest.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
Right?
way to jump in.
Jim's going worldwide now because of that monster
This
magnet.
might be the last
Yeah.
time, man. This might be a limited time.
You
guys
So next one, it's going to just be
Mr.
me and
Destroyer.
you. And maybe he'll call in or he'll post something. Hey, I'm in Hollywood.
I got
sure you
called
watch
Jim. Are you
the
there,
video
Jim?
of Mr.
No, I
Destroyer
got
on
things to do.
YouTube or Spotify.
Right. So that's how that's going to go. Well, I think it's about time to wrap things up, guys. What do you think, man?
Thanks for having us, Fred.
Hey, Jim, I've been
Great
wanting
job,
to get you on
Jack.
here
My brother.
for the longest time, and I'm
Freddie,
glad we
brother.
finally made it happen. And Jack, same with you. You will definitely be back. Hey, real quick, what if you had one concert of all these concerts that you went to over the years? What would you say was your favorite?
I mean, local?
No,
It'd have to be Hendrix.
that would be it.
Yeah, because, that was. I always wished I would have got to see the Beatles. I've seen the Stones, the Who, the Kings. I've seen just about everybody you can think of, but I never got to see the Beatles.
I saw the original Pink Floyd.
Which
Well, Pink Floyd, we've seen so many. Every album that came out. And like I said earlier,
I saw the Echoes tour.
the fact that Dark Side of the Moon is still #1 in the world right now.
That's pretty amazing.
Amazing.
Sold a lot of records.
We're talking about a lot of weird kids today, like weird stuff. So for something that heavy to be #1 in the charts.
That's required listening.
yeah, definitely. That's some wild stuff.
And here's my website, poobahband.com. Poobahband.com.
Well, listen, guys, Thanks for stopping by. Yeah, show them all again here. Yeah, so you need them. You need those girls from the Cheech and Chong thing to come back in here. You need a bikini girl in here.
I don't
That's
think
what we're
Lori
missing.
wants that to happen.
Oh, that's why Lori's here.
Thank you.
Oh, you know
Lori.
what? Yeah, we did have the bikini girls. Was scantily clad bikini girls told us to come in and hold up the albums and everything. But unfortunately, with Lori here, we had to change our plans there a little bit. You know,
And we got to pass it to Lori. She's
Joe
great
kicked
for
him out.
Right, James? Right, Jimmy?
Joe didn't kick him out. Joe would have been out there
That's
bringing him in. Joe would have paid. Joe would have paid for him to make an appearance here. Well, listen, guys, thanks. And follow Poobah and Jim. Hopefully you'll play a gig around here. Jack, you will definitely be back. We got, we'll team you up with a couple of guys, and maybe we'll get you and Thomas John in here, and Mr. Sports. We'll bring everybody in there.
To
And,
all my Youngstown friends, love you people. Thank you for your support over the years.
all right, man.
I'd like to say thank you for Youngstown's rock and roll history, for all everybody sent in and given us.
And don't forget, coming up on Saturday, Steel Valley Wolfstock Peace Paws helps out the animals. The Clarks, Leanne Binder's going to be there. The Judgment, 50-50, basket raffle, great rock and roll memorabilia, unbelievable stuff there. So bring some money, and you can find out more about that. Just look up Steel Valley Wolfstock, like Wolf, WOOF, and we'll see you out there on Saturday night. They do a lot of good things for animals and animal charities and everything else. So thank you, guys. Jimmy, keep on rocking. Jack, you keep on rocking, and I'm going to try to do the same thing. And thank you, Joe. We're going to wrap it up. Good show, man.
Thanks for a great
stories.
time. I had a good time.
Awesome time.
Nice talking to you.
I love you, Jade.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. If you like our programming, we invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow our Facebook page, or subscribe to your favorite podcast platform like iTunes or Spotify. This is original Youngstown content, and we would appreciate you sharing the videos and the word about it.